Greetings sailors, welcome to a Warships viewer replay, and this one's going to be something of a novelty for several reasons. First off, it's a rather older game. This is from 0.5.0, and this is as far back as I can play Warships replays, basically. It's the furthest back copy of the client data I've got is for that particular patch. So we're going back a ways. This is like July last year. This is from ryleejrotc, which I'm guessing it's supposed to be that rather than ryleejrotc. It's unlikely to be that, but who knows? Maybe it is. And he has basically apparently been sitting on this replay for that entire time. Now, I did actually check to see if it's been on any other channels, because I do that sometimes. If I get sent games, I have a quick look with YouTube and see if it's popped up elsewhere. And I did find that he's had some replays on iChase Gaming's channel, but not this particular one. So, as I've never had a Montana game sent to me before, even though it's a rather older one, and even though it's probably changed a little bit since July last year, I figured, why not? I'll give it a watch. And for the most part, it's actually not that interesting of a game, if I'm being fair. Most of this game, and it's not a particularly long game, is just spent pushing westwards. Now, there's not a lot of either team. This was, as I think I've said, right after OBT came out, or after CBT finished. Or actually, no, it would have been not even that. It would be it would have been OBT into the game launch, because it was 0.50 was when they officially, air quotes, launched the game and said, right, this is now a complete game, more or less ish. Not really, though, of course. I mean, it's just kind of like a fiction that we're all going to go along with. The game is still very much in development, but at that point it was no longer officially in beta. So anyway, yes, but there weren't that many ships at the higher tiers, so the matchmaking was a little bit funky to start with. So those that know, well, I'm going by what I've heard other people say, that yeah, generally it's regarded as the inferior tier 10 battleship. That basically the Yamato does everything that this does, and it does it better. And if you look at the stats between the two, of the stats you can actually see in the client, the Yamato does, in theory, just have superior basically everything. The Montana does have more guns in more turrets. It's got 4 of these triple gunned turrets, whereas of course the Yamato's only got 3, but the Yamato's guns are significantly bigger. The Yamato has by far the biggest guns in the game. In fact, it's got the biggest guns that were ever mounted on a battleship, basically. Not the biggest guns that were ever mounted on a ship, though. I believe the Lord Clive class monitors might have had bigger ones, but I would have to double check that. But they weren't battleships by any means. So, yeah, it's got bigger guns, it's got way better secondary protection. The Montana's got pretty good anti-aircraft protection, but then so does the Yamato. And when you look at the client these days, you'll also be able to see that the Yamato has much better torpedo bulge protection, which does, obviously, at the high tiers, make quite a big difference. So, all round, the Yamato just seems to be better. Hell, it even turns in a tighter circle than the Montana does, which, given the size of the ship, you would think doesn't especially make sense, but there it is. This thing it's nearly 1,000 meters. It's not that far off. I can't remember offhand. The Yamato is like 950, which is still, you know, it's still a pretty wide turning circle, but this thing is even wider still. Now, there is actually a Yamato on the enemy team, and well, this entire game so far, it's just been a slow push westwards. There's not actually a lot that's happened. He's put out a bunch of salvos as he's been moving over here. Each team has a pair of cap circles, and although his team are further ahead, I mean, it is basically just on kills. And I think maybe they got some cap circles in advance, I'm not sure. But we're now getting to a stage where he's getting a lot closer to the enemy team. And there we go, he actually gets a kill. Including the enemy Yamato. He's getting actually very close indeed. This is the remaining 3 enemy battleships, and then we know the enemy Hakuryu is down there as well. And Riley is really quite far out in front here. There's a Montana slightly to his west and north. The North Carolina is much... not Montana. One North Carolina is slightly to his west and north. The other North Carolina is considerably behind him. The Atago's in the middle. And they've got a Shimakaze, which will have been, you know, the old Shimakaze that's gone way down south and is hunting the carrier. Now that's the point. That's the point where the replay goes, oh, okay. Now there's a thing happening. Yes, broadside of a Yamato, and he just did... That was something like 90k damage. It was a lot of damage. He basically just nuked that Yamato. So even with all the advantages that the Yamato has, when you meet one broadside and you can just, at this range, get all your guns into him, he just basically, in 2 salvos, eliminated a Yamato. So much for the advantages. Now, the Yamato player himself actually admits that he made a grievous mistake there, and he really did. It is still entirely possible to come out on top against a Yamato in a Montana, especially if the Yamato player makes that kind of a move. However, this has left him with a pair of battleships to contend with, and he's actually now splitting his fire. He's got his rear turrets on the Colorado and his front turrets on that North Carolina. And this means that it's going to take long to kill them both overall, but it also means that he doesn't have to angle out excessively to get all his guns on the bigger threat, the North Carolina. Now this is the last enemy ship bar the carrier, and at this stage, well, I think he just figured screw it. Ramming speed! And can you blame him? Now, look how much health the Riley ship has left. It's just over half. He's got 55,000 health left. And, well, oh god, is he going to survive? Yes, he is! However, wow, that's not good. Now, he takes some, he actually bounces some shots there, I think, from one of the North Carolinas who was helpfully trying to help out there. But it's, his damage control is on, cooldown, so it really is only the fact that he's got a repair party going to give him some more health that's enabled him to survive. And the question is he going to survive long enough, with enemy dive bombers coming for him, to get this final kill? Because they're also winning quite heavily on points now, having survived the ramming from the North Carolina. I mean, it really is just a matter of time. He's going to sink, but will they win before he does sink? That's, you know, the question. Now, in terms of the actual victory points timer, he probably could survive on points, but you know what? He wants this last kill, because why not? So this guy is actually really quite close. It's just a matter of, oh, look at that salvo, and there we go, 3 citadels and 4 hits. So he just completely eliminates that Hakuryu and manages to live. So he got the high caliber, he got devastating strike, and whatever the medal's called for ramming somebody and surviving. Although it was awfully close. Awfully close. And for his efforts, well, I think basically just for deleting that enemy Yamato, he got a very nice score indeed. 3,500 XP, and his total damage at the end there, well, getting the hit points from the carrier was a pretty big chunk, but the Yamato alone had to have been about 100,000 health overall. So yeah, that was nearly 250,000 damage done in about 10 minutes. And it was really in the last couple of minutes of that replay that it kind of got interesting. So I did say this was something of a novelty replay, or at least I think I said that. This has been one of those times when I've done multiple takes and then it gets difficult remembering what I've said in what take. But either way, it was a bit of a novelty replay. It was all about that ending and, you know, deleting the Yamato and then surviving the ramming and then getting that final carrier kill. So yeah, it was a pretty good game overall. So hopefully you've enjoyed this replay, and if you have, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can sub to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, stay tuned for more.